everybody, and welcome to Two Funny Astronauts. I'm one of your hosts, Garrett Reisman.
And I'm your other host, Mike Massimino. And Garrett, today it's a little bit different. It's usually just the two of us, the recordings we've made so far. But today we have a third funny astronaut. And again, we're not saying we're funny astronauts. We're just, we're funny for astronauts. We're not funny people. We're funny for astronauts. But we have a third guy with us who is, no kidding, hilarious. Mike Good, our good friend, Mike Good, nicknamed Bueno, who flew with both of us.
That's right.
In space.
And I don't want to.
You and I never flew together.
I don't want to
hype
this
You and I never flew together,
much.
but we have Mike in common.
Yes,
what's
that's
that?
True. We do have Mike in common, and I don't want to hype this too much, but Bueno over here might be funny for a person. He might not. He might actually be a funny guy. I think he could qualify.
No,
he is.
None of this is true. Like at best, we're going to be 2.5 funny astronauts. There's, yeah.
Who's the half?
Mass always told me, leave the comedy to the professionals, so I'm not even going to try. But Garrett, if I had to say, you might be the half.
That's not kind of a short joke. Are you making fun of me?
I know, but don't tell President Obama. I know that he has the executive order out, no more short jokes after the Oval Office visit that we had.
He told you right to your face that as leader of the free world, you were ordered to stop making fun of me for being short.
Yeah. Were you guys making fun of Garrett? You got to tell. Now we got to start with this one. Apparently, were you guys making fun of Garrett in front of the President of the United States?
Well, yes, it happened. So we're in the Oval Office on our post-flight tour after 132, and we're all just standing around. So of course we were joking about it, just like we have for the past year. And the president takes Garrett's side for some reason. And so he tells us all, no more short jokes. And so as soon as we walked out of the Oval Office, we started right back up again.
They did. But actually, the way it started was we gathered around that Resolute desk, the president's desk in the office for a photo. And they start pushing me towards the center right next to and President Obama is a very tall person, okay? He's very
tall. How tall is he?
He's got to be he's taller than you. I mean, he's got to be over 6'4", I'm thinking.
No, that's just what it looks like from your vantage point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man.
he was taller than anybody else on our crew, and we had some tall guys on our crew, right?
All right, well,
how tall? Anyway, the point is, I get pushed toward the center, and I look up and I'm standing there, and I look up the president. I say, "Hey, how come I always have to stand next to the tall guy? It makes me look bad." And then he.
So you brought it up.
I did bring it up. I opened the floodgates.
By the way, he's 6'1". I just looked it up.
No,
he's 6'1".
I was going to say he's probably.
Come on, Garrett.
That's just what he's listed as.
Maybe he's lifting. Anyway, he's wearing lifts.
Maybe you're shorter than what you're listed as.
Anyway, the point is that he puts his arm around me, and he pulls me in, and he goes, "Oh, come here, little fella." and then they open the floodgates, and then Bueno and everybody else starts making fun of me. And then he says, you stop it. He wags his finger at the crew, and he goes, you guys stop it. This is a real American hero. Stop with the short jokes, all right? I order you, as leader of the free world, to leave this guy alone. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. It didn't work.
And we did for a couple minutes.
He doesn't know the whole story. The president is there to, he was there. He was already president for a couple years. He's used to being a diplomat and trying to get people to get along, and that's what I'm guessing. That's what he was trying to do.
He's trying to do the right thing. So there's a follow up to this, and we got to. I really want to let Bueno tell his side of the story, but I got to wrap this up by telling you the second half. So I go back to the White House for the Hanukkah party. All right, This is like 6 months later, almost to the day. I'm back so we were there in the summer. I'm back for the Hanukkah party in December. And we're in the receiving line to take a photo with the president. There's President Obama and the First Lady, Michelle Obama. They're standing right there. And as I walk up there, and there were like a whole bunch of people waiting in line. So I don't know how I didn't see anybody whisper in his ear or anything. I don't know how we remembered, but I walk up and he goes, Michelle, you see this guy here? This guy is a true American hero. He's an astronaut, okay? And you know what? His crewmates were making fun of him all because of his short stature. But I put an end to that. I put an end to the bullying. I stopped the bullying.
Wow.
And I said, well, Mr. President, it didn't work. Later that very same evening, we were in Georgetown University giving a crew presentation, and they started in again with the short jokes. And he goes, "That's not right." And he turns to Michelle. This is like a thing with him. He's like, turns to Michelle. He goes, "Am I or am I not the leader of the free world?" And Michelle goes, "Yeah, honey, you're a leader of the free world." The big eye roll. And he goes, "What I say goes." I said, "This is not right." And I said, "Well, Mr. President, would you put it in writing?" And he says, he goes, "Yes, I will." And he says, "Talk to my man." So he brings over his assistant, Reggie Love, and he took down my email address.
This really happened?
This really happened.
All of this really happened?
All this really happened.
So the man's not worried about world peace and taking care of our economy. He's worried about your height problem.
Well,
but
you know what? You know what?
I never.
So what I did was I actually emailed in. I wrote up a whole presidential proclamation, right? Like, whereas Garrett Reisman's a real American hero, blah, blah, blah. And therefore be it resolved that if any crew members from STS-132 on Atlantis ever make fun of him again, they will be in really, really big trouble. Signed, Commander-in-Chief, President Obama. And I sent that in. And I guess he is concerned about, he was at the time, and now he's retired. Maybe he can help me out now. But at the time, he must have been concerned about, like, world peace and everything, because I never got an answer. I never got it back.
Or maybe he didn't want to sign it, and this conversation continues, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
could be. But enough
probably he was just too busy.
To be fair, I think we just forgot. It wasn't like a direct violation of a presidential order. We just forgot.
So where is a direct violation? I'll get over it.
Well, Bueno, we should talk a little bit about Bueno here, our guest. Absolute great guy, good friend of for both Garrett and I and many other people. Went to Notre Dame. We can talk a little bit about that too, as there's some references in your space flight, of course, to Notre Dame with both Garrett and I. And then into the Air Force, flight test engineer. Am I getting it right so far, Bueno?
Flight test navigator. Flight test
navigator. Yeah. You flew in some really cool airplanes, and then you became an astronaut in the class of 2000, the Bugs, and got a chance to fly in space your first trip on STS-125 to Hubble with me, and then the two of us were assigned as spacewalkers together and went out into the void together. So we have that connection forever. And Garrett as well on your second flight, right? You guys both went out there and spacewalk together on space station.
That's right. We did a spacewalk too. So I got a question for you, Bueno. Who was better, right? Spacewalking with me or spacewalking with this guy?
Yeah, be honest. And remember, you spacewalk with me on Hubble.
This seems like a trick of some sort.
No, it's not. It's a straightforward question.
But there is a right answer.
So it's like when you're a parent and your kids, right? You love them all, right? You love them both.
Oh, jeez.
But and your favorite is the one that you're with at the time, right? So this is
the
a little
wise
trick.
Father too.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, it was two completely different experiences. I got to fly twice in space, once with Mass on 125 to Hubble, and once with Garrett on 132 to the space station. And pretty cool to get to go to two different destinations, and very different orbits. There were different altitudes and different inclinations, and a really different mission too. And the spacewalks were different because Mass, we did our spacewalks out of the space shuttle, right out of the airlock. And we just went, as soon as we got outside, it was like you're out working in your garage, and there's the telescope. You just scamper over to it, and we spent a lot of time out there just running around the payload bay. But I still remember you went out first in that first spacewalk. I remember poking my head out for the first time, and you kind of come out on your back, and wow, there was the Earth, just 300 miles, what looked like above us, but we were actually upside down. So there's really no up or down in space, though, right?
No.
So really, neat experience working on the Hubble. Actually going over to it, opening up the doors, going inside the Hubble Space Telescope and working inside of it. And they were really, crazy about any any FOD or anything, any foreign objects getting inside Hubble and messing it up. So they were always telling us, don't break the telescope. You're going there to fix it. Don't break it.
We had to be very careful.
Yeah, but then going over to the station, that was a completely different experience. It's so big, and Garrett and I, we actually slept in the airlock the night before, so that we could reduce our pre-breathe time. So that's an experience that I always tell people. I slept in the airlock with Garrett, and there's no telling secrets or nothing in there. It was just a really cool experience. You wake up in the morning and you're going to go out and do your spacewalk. But then when you go outside on the station, holy cow, it's huge. And so we had like a 20-minute commute just to get out to our work site. And but it was pretty cool. So the thing that ties this all together is then, I don't know, Garrett, if you remember, at the end of our spacewalk, because we were all the way out at the end of the station, at the end of the P6 truss, but we got to come back into the shuttle's payload bay. Remember, we had to go get something. They wanted us to go get something off the wall and bring it back inside. So I said, aha, this is an opportunity. This is going to be fun. Because I remember we would, Mass on our mission, we could scamper up to those back windows at the aft flight deck and get our picture taken, right? So I said, Garrett, when we get in the payload bay, just be quiet, and we'll just, because we don't want the ground to hear us and what we're doing, because they're going to yell at us for not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So I said, but we're going to go up to those windows and we're going to get our picture taken. And so it was just awesome. We climbed down off the station across the nose of the shuttle, and we go down into the payload bay, and we pop up at those two back windows. And this picture ended up on the front page of the New York Times, right, Garrett? Above the fold. Above the fold.
We're above the fold on the front page. That picture was a great picture.
But it was pretty cool because we're taking pictures of the guys inside, and they're taking pictures of us, taking pictures of them. And it was just, it was pretty awesome. And Garrett, that's when you took a picture of me too. You turned and took a picture of me, and that's like my favorite picture, from being outside. So
I got your good side.
Yeah.
The good side of your helmet. Yeah.
So
that was amazing. What I really loved about our spacewalk, that one, first of all, unless something crazy happens, that is the last spacewalk you and I will probably ever do. So that was it, right? And what a way to go out, because it's my favorite spacewalk. I'm not just saying that because you're our guest. And Rick Linehan and Steve Bowen, please don't take any offense. It's just that the great thing about it was, at that point in the mission, we had this thing suitcase. We had it nailed, right? We were way ahead of the timeline. We had overachieved on the previous EVAs, previous spacewalks. And so we were kind of relaxed. And we also knew that this was kind of this is probably going to be our last hurrah as spacewalkers. So we were out there, and they were like normally, if you are ahead of time, they have a whole bunch of on a way, they have like a to-do list, like a big long list of stuff if you have extra time. And we even worked through all of those things. They had us put tools and toolboxes and climb all over the space station to move things around for future spacewalks. And they were running out of stuff for us to do. We were like that far ahead. And so we got to kind of have a chance to stop and smell the roses. I mean, I remember doing that thing with the pictures you just described in the back windows. I remember just holding on to the space station at one point and doing kind of like in Leo DiCaprio in Titanic, like I'm king of the world. I got the whole space and I'm watching the sunrise over the horizon of the Earth, holding with the whole space station behind me. So I got nothing in front of me but the sun coming off over the side of the Earth. And those memories and the fun we had, because there really was no pressure on us, which is very unusual. All my other spacewalks, I'm like, we got to stay on schedule, and we were just kind of chill. And as a result, we actually were very efficient. We actually worked really well. We got everything done, and it was just it was really a special time. Aw.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you have to say about it?
Thank God there were no icebergs up there, but it was kind of a Titanic moment. Yeah. So Mass, the difference, on Hubble, though, we were up higher. We were up at 300 nautical miles versus 200.
Yeah.
And we were going, so that's as high as the space shuttle could go. I tell people that was when they launched Hubble. Wait, I just happen to have a model of the whole space telescope here, if you want to see it. I did this for Garrett. No, Garrett.
Yeah.
You'll be all right.
Garrett, that's the telescope.
Yeah, it's my favorite telescope. So Mass,
It's pretty much the world's favorite telescope, Mike.
Yeah.
But
Come on, tell me what good has that thing ever done? I mean, yeah, okay, it's made for some pretty nice screensavers. I'll give you that. But for science, I mean, what has that thing ever really done for anybody?
yeah, don't show your ignorance. Don't let the people listening mistake your jealousy for ignorance. You know how great it is. Come on now.
You got to be able to read those physics books. They're completely different than when you were in high school, and it's all because of this thing right here. No, but we had. I say that's as high as the Hubble. Hubble's as high as the shuttle could go, but you could actually go up higher, but then you couldn't get home. Right? You have to save some gas to do that deorbit burn and get home. So we're up there pretty high, and we ended up having to go a little bit faster to get up there. Right, Mike?
So Garrett, I have a question for you. There's been a lot of I don't know, rivalry or talk, or I don't know what it is about. Garrett seems to be upset in some way with the Hubble Space Telescope. What he just said a moment ago, but Garrett, I have a little test for you. You can see the both of us. Now, those of you who are just listening to the podcast and not seeing it like on YouTube might not be able to participate in this, but we'll try to describe it. There's a difference between my flight jacket and Bueno's flight jacket. Can you pick it up? Look closely. Underneath our name tags. Can you see it?
Mach 26.
26.
So Mike's got a Mach 26 patch, which I normally would wear, but I didn't have one with me to show. But Mike has his. And explain the reason for that, Bueno. What happened?
Well, because we were
only Hubble guys have a Mach 26 patch. But go ahead.
Right. So and it's only a little bit faster, but Garrett, we went like Mach 25.9 or something on our mission. But the Hubble mission, just because we were up there a little bit higher, as we were coming back in, we actually hit Mach 26 on the tapes, just over Mach 26. So we actually had our crew actually had these patches made. They're a little bit of like contraband at NASA. They're not official patches, but anyway, we just had a little fun.
Oh, we wear them proudly because we went faster than you guys.
All right, so you
went faster than you guys.
Answer me this.
Yeah.
So you went 20. You're saying you went 26 times the speed of sound, then, right?
Right.
As opposed to only 20. So how do you go 26 times the speed of sound in space where there's no sound? How does that work?
Mike, I don't know if you want to explain that, but I don't. So why don't we move on?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That, Mike? I have nothing on that.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out, though, is so first of all, we were going faster, right? We've been the fastest. We are the fastest travelers in the 21st century, right, Mike?
That's a true statement. Yeah.
That's a true statement.
Whoa.
No, we'll move on.
No.
The other thing is,
I'll give you that.
The 21st century.
All right.
The altitude we attained at 300 miles, there was, it's higher, like you said, 100 miles higher than space station. Mike, was there much of a difference in the view of what you saw out there at that? Was there a difference? Or was it not that much of a difference?
No, there was a huge difference because we were up higher. We could actually see more of the planet. You could see more of the curvature. And the funny thing was, so we're up there for our spacewalks, and once we were done though, and we let go of Hubble, and we put Hubble back in its orbit, and then NASA decided that they would lower us on half of our orbit to get us out of some of the orbital debris. It was actually a safety issue. And so we were now, instead of 300 miles on a circular orbit, we were 300 by 200. So we're coming down lower around one part of the Earth and then going back up to 300. Well, I happened to look out the window right as we were going at the lowest part, and I hadn't really been paying attention. But we had been up there for a week at 300 miles, and so you get used to what it looks like out the window. I look out the window and I was like, I thought we were going to run into the Earth. I thought we're crashing. Scooter, what the hell are you doing over there? What?
Pull up.
Did you look
up?
Yeah.
Were there any clouds or birds flying out with you?
No, it wasn't that bad, but it looked so much closer just looking out the window. It scared me. I had to jump back a little bit and say, what is going on? So
yeah, we had a joke on my first flight to Hubble, was realizing how much higher we were. We're like, well, maybe they can redistrict the boundaries of space. make it 300 and above. And I ran this idea by John Young, and I go, it'd just be Hubble and Apollo. And he goes, we had a couple Gemini flights. They went up to like 600 miles. And he goes, yeah, we'd get rid of a lot of astronauts that way. So
Yeah.
we were up a bit higher. But now they didn't go. They kept it where it was. So
Yeah. So speaking of John Young,
anyway,
I don't know, dude. Want to move on? So I remember.
Yeah, sure.
I remember you guys were talking a little bit about the interview process last time and telling some John Young stories, and those were awesome. I actually listened to your podcast, by the way, and my wife did too. And
you're the one.
She's very.
You're the one. Thank
She was
you.
very entertained.
We've been looking for you.
Yeah, she loved it. She says she's terrified though that I'm going to be on it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of a good idea." Like, yeah, I'll be your first and only guest. But
do you have any stories about Joan you want to tell?
No, that sounds like a trick question too. But I had this. I just remember the interview. You guys talked about how we went down to JSC, Johnson Space Center, for a whole week, and it was mostly medical and psychological testing too. I want to talk about that. But just that 45-minute interview with John Young at the head of the table, and just the icon that he was. You walk in there, and I don't know what my heart rate was, but I sat down and I just remember looking at him, and he didn't even say like, "Hi, Mike, how you doing?" He just got right into it. They're doing one of these right after the other, right? So he says, "All right, Mike, tell us everything about yourself starting after high school." Boom, go. That was it. One question, 45 minutes. So you just have to, start telling stories. And so I started, let's see. Okay, so starting after high school, so that's college. So I told him the first story I had was about how I got accepted into Notre Dame. Mike, you mentioned I went to Notre Dame. And the way I learned that I got accepted into Notre Dame is that I came home from school one day, and there's a letter taped to my door. So my mom had gotten the mail. She sees this letter. Apparently, she doesn't care that it's addressed to me, but she tears it open, reads the letter, and puts it up on my door. So I told John Young that story, but I think that was really what they were looking for, right? They just wanted to get to know us, and so But that was the way my mom was. She's a character, and she can never wait for anything.
Well, I got to, when you guys went to space the second time for both of you on 132, right? Mm-hmm. I was your extended family escort, Mike. So remember I told the story earlier in a previous episode. I was next to Garrett's mom during your landing, but Mike, I was sitting there next to your mom during that launch. So that was pretty memorable for me from that aspect to see you guys get to go together.
Who has the better mom?
Oh, that's a tie. You guys both have great moms.
Yeah,
that's a tie.
But she can never wait for anything. Like,
both very lucky.
If we send her something for like Mother's Day or her birthday or something, like the day she gets it in the mail, she's tearing it open. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. She's always going for it. So I don't know.
So did she find out you were an astronaut before you?
No, they called me. So luckily they called me directly. If they had sent it to my house, then she would have known first. But yeah, but the other thing I remember about the interview process, you guys talked a lot about the medical and about the probing and all that kind of stuff. But I remember the psychological tests that they did too. And then you had to, after you took like this 1,000-question test, then you had to meet with a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And I don't even know what the difference is, but they were tag teaming. It was two of them against me. And they were quizzing me about my answers to these 1,000 questions. And I just remembered, this must be a rite of passage or something, because these questions were crazy. And I think we were supposed to take it on a computer, but it was broken or something. So we actually had to fill it out like the old SAT or some test where you had to fill in the bubbles. So like 1,000 questions of filling in these bubbles. And the questions were just crazy. I mean, I think you guys remember these things. Like, one question they just keep asking over and over, like, do you love your mother? Or, like, well, who's gonna, like, what does that mean? Would you rather hit your thumb with a hammer or throw up on a bus?
I had to think hard before I answered that question. It wasn't so easy for me.
These are all trick questions, It's like, I remember this other question. Do you ever feel like you have a constricting metal band on your head? I said, No. I don't think I've ever felt like that. So I don't know. Do you guys remember that test?
I do. I remember it taking forever because we sat there with the number 2 pencil, like you said. We filled them all out. It just went on and on and on. It was getting really tedious. At the very end, I remember there were some fill in the blank questions. You know, most of it was like the bubbles, but at the end and one of the questions I remember, one of the questions was, "I am afraid of blank." So I wrote, I'm like, oh, you know, you're applying to be an astronaut. What are you going to put in that, right? So I put, I'm afraid of, and I filled that. I'm afraid of not finishing this test on time for dinner. I'm hungry. And then in my debrief, they're like, so you got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
You're a funny astronaut.
This podcast, it was meant to be. Yeah.
They figured that out. They figured that test figured that out. Yeah.
I remember that question about the, like what they asked me a question like that about what was the scariest you've ever been in your life, right? And I told, you know, again, I'm like, well, you know, so I'm trying to think up some good story. So I tell them Air Force story about, you know, flying the F-111. You know, we're down at 200 feet right over the water, 500 knots, and we lose an engine. And so we had to pop up into the weather over there off, you know, west coast of Wales. And, you know, it's like a washing machine that's off cycle. And, you know, it's bouncing us around. And I was riding that ejection handle like you were talking about the other day, Garrett. And, you know, so the pilot's flying this single engine approach into some base we've never been to in the weather. And I'm riding the ejection handle. So I'm telling this whole story, and I'm thinking I'm pretty cool, you know, and that this must be a good answer, right? This is what they're looking for. I got this. I got the right stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So then we go out to dinner with the rest of the group afterwards. You know, that night there's 20 of us interviewing, and we're all just kind of getting along and getting to know each other too. And this question comes up, and they're like, "Well, how did you answer it? You know, what did you say?" And it's kind of going around the table. And I remember one of the guys answered the question. He says, "For me, it was the flying monkeys on the Wizard of Oz." And I'm like, I didn't say a word. I'm like,
they didn't pick that guy, huh?
No.
I don't know.
No, he didn't. I mean, the flying monkeys were pretty scary, but I don't think that's what I would have picked, you know.
On the astronaut interview, that's what this guy put down for boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
They didn't pick him. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mike, you came out of Notre Dame and then went to the Air Force. You were ROTC at Notre Dame, but not right away, right? You were like a year or so there before you joined the Air Force. Is that right? Is that if I remember right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I was kind of a slow learner. You know, so I was just a 2-year ROTC guy. My mom wanted me to go to the Air Force Academy. So my mom was like, she wanted me to go there, you know, tried to talk me. I'm like, are you kidding me? There is no way I'm ever going to go in the Air Force or the Air Force Academy. That's a terrible idea. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go to Notre Dame. I'm going to, you know, drink beer and you know, take engineering courses and stuff and have a good time, right?
Maybe not in that order.
No. But after 2 years at Notre Dame, I was out of cash. I was out of money. So it was literally during my sophomore year finals week. And I'm like, oh, geez, what am I studying for? I don't have enough money to come back here in the fall. So I just walked down to the ROTC building. I don't think I had showered in like 2 days and just been studying. I remember I had on this old baseball hat, and I walk in there and I said, hey, I'm an aerospace engineer. And the thing is that most of the people in the aerospace engineering class were either Air Force or Navy ROTC, and they were all on a full tuition scholarship. So I'm like, hey, how about me? You know, you got anything for me? And I remember this master sergeant, he takes me into the colonel's office and he stands me in front of his desk, and he takes off the hat and he hands it to me, because apparently you're not supposed to wear a hat indoors in the Air Force. So they taught me that lesson in the first 20 seconds. And I talked to the colonel, and I walked out of his office with a full scholarship, and was off to, you know, into the Air Force in the next couple of weeks. So that all worked out pretty well. Yeah.
They let you keep the hat?
Yeah, he gave me back the hat.
Okay,
He told me to get a shower. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but Mass, did you ever think about going in the Air Force?
No, not no. I don't know, Mike. I don't know how that would have went. You know, I have a great amount of respect for you guys, all the guys that we served with that were in the military. But I don't know. Though you were encouraging to me at one point. If you remember in the NBL one time, we were talking about. I think you had just come back a promotion, and you want to tell the story, Mike? Do you remember? What do you remember from that episode?
I think you should tell the story. But I remember somehow we get to this point. I think we were in the literally underwater in the NBL doing a practice run for Hubble. And we were talking about the Air Force and promotions and things. And you got to remember, like the Navy, Scooter and Ray J, the commander and pilot, were Navy guys. So they were constantly giving me a hard time about the Air Force. And they always joked about the Air Force. You guys just play golf and you just sit in your air conditioned, rooms and you don't do anything. And, the Navy, they're out there landing on ships and doing all this stuff. So we would just kind of play along with it. And I would just joke with them, yeah, we're out there, we're having a good time. And I think you kind of picked up on that too. And you said, I could be like an Air Force general. And I thought, Mass, you'd be perfect.
You guys, this is so Garrett, this is a conversation we had during a Hubble training run. You guys stuck to business, I'm sure. But it was I remember I was in the airlock, Mike was cleaning up or something. And
I was actually outside working. I'm outside working and you're in there
like hanging out. So I'm lounging around. Mike, it was at the end of the EVA and Mike was, cleaning up the payload bay and doing all that stuff, closing the hatch or whatever. And we're talking and, I'm distracting him because I have nothing else to do except hang out there and underwater. And it was something like that. Yeah, you were I think I said, oh, they were saying, I said, I can play golf and hang around. And Mike says, you could be a general. I never knew. I thought I would have been perfect. So,
oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, that was before. That was before you guys got out of the water and then got your massages.
That's right.
That's right. They would feed us grapes too. Yeah.
You prima donnas. I had to get the beaded seat cushion in my truck, and I would drive home and I'd be like, "Oh, that's better." That's all I had.
So Gary, the thing is that now I wish I had a chance to go to space station. That's a big in the way I look at it. It's just an amazing place, and it's still there, and it's just great, and hopefully it's going to be there for a long time. The space station is, and but Mike, you were saying Garrett maybe got a little flack about height and. But Mike, did you take any abuse being a Hubble guy flying with these guys on a station flight?
Gosh. Yeah, constantly, every day. Every day there was you walk, morning till night. They would remind me that I was, on this Hubble crew, and they were just going to beat it out of me. They were going to take every good deal we ever got, and they were going to make it even. They were going to try to make this even. But
every day it was like, so Bueno, when are they going to film our IMAX movie?
And again, don't hate us because we're Hubble, right, Mass? Like just because they made an IMAX movie, what are you going to do? That's just the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
They saw the talent and they saw the opportunity, and it turned out pretty good.
Oh boy.
But Gary, you remember we were on the shuttle too. We went up to station, but we were only there for a short time just to do some work, right? And we had to, do some construction, and but we spent a lot of time on the shuttle. And that, I'll tell you what, that crew was probably the funniest crew I think they've ever put together, right? Like I was the adult supervision. That's how crazy this crew was. You had Ken Ham, Hawk was the commander, Tony Antonelli, really funny guy, very smart guy. But
we gotta get those guys on the show. They're really funny guys.
And then our buddy Pierce Sellers, who's yeah. So I just remembered you got to tell the story because you can tell it better than I can. But I remember one of the traditions is you normally watch a movie one night. There's a movie night, kind of after you've done all your work and you're going to get ready to come home the next day maybe. And so you have a movie night and you go down on the mid deck and you put up a laptop or something on the wall and rig up some speakers, and then the whole crew floats there in the dark and watches a movie together. So do you remember what movie we watched there on 132?
First of all, I want to point out that to watch this movie, you got to make it dark inside. So you put up covers over all the windows. So it does, for all the astronauts that come back and talking about how magnificent the Earth looks outside the window and how incredibly moving it is to see the Earth from space, remind them that they probably at one point covered up all those windows to watch a movie. and we did that, and we didn't watch just any movie. We watched Talladega Nights. That was the movie. Tell Bueno, tell them why did we watch Talladega Nights?
So yeah, this is like maybe a little bit irreverent, but I think it was for Tony Antonelli. We got our wake up songs, but Tony got to pick the movie because he was a Navy guy, and this is kind of a Navy tradition, I think, to watch movies because that's all they had to do out there on a boat. We could go home and we're we're with our families, we're playing golf, we're having a good time, and they're so bitter because they have nothing to do but sit around and watch movies every night for like 6 months. So we watch a movie, and Tony gets to pick the movie. And Tony, I think he was actually born up in Michigan, but he went to high school down in North Carolina, and he's a huge NASCAR fan, right? Loves racing. And he kind of, like I said, he's a super smart guy, but he kind of likes to come across with that Southern drawl and, play like he's played dumb. But he wanted everybody to watch Talladega Nights, and he especially wanted Piers, our British, born astronaut, to experience this. Oh my gosh,
as a cultural exchange. Was really
right. Yeah. Well, it kind of backfired though.
Oh yeah, it did backfire. But I love how Tony likes to play the redneck, like you're saying, despite the fact that I always would remind people he did go to MIT. Which I don't know, it's not the greatest institution, but it's something, right? It's no Notre Dame.
But I just remember floating there, and just throughout the whole movie, like you could hear Piers groaning. Like he was just, he was like, oh my gosh, he's muttering under his breath. This is the worst movie that's ever been made. This is rubbish, and he's a super funny guy. I mean, he had a quip for everything. But I just remember when the lights came on at the end of that movie, and I thought he was probably crying. He was in so much pain.
He hated it. He hated every second of that movie. And you're right. He has an incredible sense of humor. So my favorite Piers story, I'll make this quick, but one day down there, and we were living all together by the Johnson Space Center in a place called Clear Lake, Texas, which is my wife referred to it. It shouldn't be called Clear Lake. It should be called Lake Opaque because it's just a mud puddle, right? And you can't see a thing in there.
But a big puddle.
A big mud puddle.
Big for a puddle.
And I went to Clear Lake Ford, and I bought myself my first brand new car. First time I ever bought a brand new car. And it was a Ford Mustang GT convertible. And I felt like $1 million. And my wife and I were driving that thing around. And it's in the summer in Houston. So, but I had to put the top down. So I got the top down, air conditioned, cranked all the way up at the top down. And we're driving around this brand new car, drove it off the lot, feeling like $1 million. And we pull up to a stoplight, and there's this beat up Honda Civic that was just this falling apart jalopy. The wheels were about to come off. It was hand painted, and I don't mean like with some really nice spray paint like in a body shop. I mean like the guy did it with a brush. He painted this thing with a brush. And I pull up and I look over, and sure enough, it's Piers. It's Piers driving his car. And Piers rolls down the window, and he has to roll it down because there's no power window. He has to roll it down. And he leans out the window, and he looks right at me, and he goes, bourgeois.
Oh. Yeah. Piers.
He was a very funny guy. When you guys, Mike, what were you thinking when you got it? I mean, you had our crew, which I know you loved, but now with the second crew you had with Garrett, the reaction that I had was, I can't believe it, because they put a bunch of you guys together who were just really funny guys. It was like, all right, who's available and who's funny?
I know.
And that's what they did.
I know. It was really dangerous. Yeah. Like we had to like make a point that, okay, and Hawk was good about this, right? He's like, you guys, we can have fun, but we got to get our work done and we got to be perfect. Because if you don't, if you screw up and you're messing around, then you look like a clown. But, but we did have a lot of fun, but we were able to, keep things, going because we were, like Garrett, you talked about earlier, everything was going well.
I remember when we drove up to the launch pad, you know, and it's just the crew at that point. It's just the crew and like a couple guys are going to help you strap in that are really brave individuals because every sane person is like at least 5 miles away from this thing. It's full of liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen. It could blow up like a ginormous bomb. And we're standing right next to it. And you're looking up, and that thing is hundreds of feet up in the air. And you're standing there feeling really small, you know, even shorter than I normally do. And I'm looking up, and I'm like, I'm really just incredibly awestruck by what's happening to us and the power of this moment. And Tony comes over and he puts his arm around me, and in our spacesuits, and as we're both looking up, and he goes, "Hey Garrett, you know all that screwing around we've been doing during training? Well, it's gonna look really stupid if we fuck this up." I'm like, don't put any pressure on me, man. But it was so true. Yeah, we had so much fun that if it went wrong, it would have been really bad.
Yeah, you guys were fun to be around, and I'm getting a time sign from Jason over here, our engineer producer. So I think we might need to cut it out. Although I think we could go on with a few more episodes just with Mike here if he's game. Maybe we'll get him to come back. You want to come back, Mike? Right on the spot.
Oh yeah, of course. I would love to come back, but I think
Cool.
yeah. Let's let the people decide. Let's let the people vote.
All right,
would
let me
like to
see. Oh, that's Jason. Jason, what's your vote?
I'm in.
All right, so the answer is yes. We'd love to have you come back, Mike. But we
Hey,
really
wait.
appreciate you.
Why don't we
Go ahead.
Why don't we check in with our one viewer, Mike? Do you want to come back?
Yeah.
Wait, Garrett, isn't
Mike said yes, so we're in.
your mom watching?
Oh yeah. Well, you're half our audience, so we can check with the other half later.
Talk to your mom and see if it's okay. And if she says it's okay, I'll come back.
And for mom, for the record, I did fill out the oval that says yes, I do love my mom. So just want to go on record having said that.
But there was a bunch of erasures and scratch outs and stuff.
Question mark?
No, I filled it in solid. Yes.
All right. Of course.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on, Mike. We know you're a busy guy, and thanks very much for sharing some of your stories with us. And we hope to have you back soon if you're game.
That was really fun. Thanks for coming along. Bueno, it's great to see you again.
All right.